had never imagined he would be invited to an alien wedding. He was just a human, an ordinary engineer from Earth, with a small apartment, a small life, and small dreams. Yet one quiet morning, a shimmering holographic scroll appeared in his living room, floating above his kitchen table like it had always belonged there. It spoke in a language that twisted and shimmered in the air, but a small device attached to it translated the words instantly. Guest of honor at the Royal Union of the People. Attendance requested. At first laughed. This had to be a prank, some clever simulation, but something in the way the words glowed felt real. He stared at the scroll, his heart pounding with a strange mix of fear and excitement. Could he really leave Earth and attend a wedding light years away on a planet he had never seen? Curiosity won. Adventure won. Soon he found himself aboard a gleaming starship, hurtling through space toward this. The journey was surreal. Stars streaked past like silver rain, and he felt both tiny and infinite at the same time. Hours, or was it days, passed in silence, broken only by the gentle hum of the ship's engines. Stared out at the cosmos, imagining the worlds he might see, the beings he might meet. When the ship finally landed, he gasped. The palace floated above crystal seas, a structure of impossible geometry. Light shimmered across towers that seemed to twist into the sky, and every surface glowed with colors that shifted as he moved. The air felt alive, buzzing with energy, as if the planet itself was welcoming him. They themselves were breathtaking. Towering and elegant, their translucent skin shimmered in sunlight, revealing colors had no names for. Their eyes reflected galaxies, endless and deep. Their voices vibrated not just through his ears, but through his chest, a soft resonance that made the world feel alive. Felt out of place. He was small, ordinary, human, in a world of beings that seemed more art than life. The grand hall where the wedding was to take place was immense, filled with guests from countless species. Robes and gowns shimmered, jewels floated in the air like tiny stars, and the scent of alien flowers hung sweet and sharp in the air. And then he saw her, Princess Lyra the bride, moving with grace so perfect it seemed choreographed by the stars themselves. Even from across the hall felt her presence pull at him. She was regal, yes, but there was warmth in her gaze, a hint of curiosity as her eyes scanned the crowd. Felt something inside him stir, a connection he couldn't explain. The ceremony began. Light danced across the hall, music hummed through the air, and two beings joined together in a ritual older than could comprehend. He watched, spellbound, feeling a tug at his heart, an echo of something primal and beautiful. And yet, despite the celebration around him, whispers reached him. Words like human, chosen, destiny flickered through the crowd, and he shivered. Why him? Before he could understand, a voice called his name. Froze. Princess Lyra herself, her eyes glimmering like twin stars, was walking toward him. The hall fell silent. The air seemed to hold its breath. You, she said, her voice melodic and commanding, are needed in the ceremony's final rite. His mind reeled. He was just a guest. A human. What could he possibly have to do with a royal wedding? But as he looked at her, he saw no mockery, no mistake, only trust, and something else, hope. With a hesitant step, he followed her to the altar. The watched, expectant, reverent. The energy in the hall seemed to pulse around him as if the universe itself was watching. His heart raced, his hands shook, and yet he felt a strange calm settle over him. He was here for a reason, even if he did not yet understand it. Lyra extended her hand, took it, feeling the warmth of her grip, the silent promise in her gaze. In that moment, he realized that this night, strange, surreal, and terrifying, would change his life forever. He was no longer just a human on the sidelines of an alien celebration. Somehow, against all reason, he had become part of something extraordinary, could hardly breathe as he stood at the altar gripping Princess Lyra's hand. The crowd watched in complete silence, their faces shining with curiosity and something deeper, expectation. Had no idea what he was supposed to do. He was just a human, an ordinary man. Yet somehow the fate of a royal ceremony rested on him. Lyra's gaze never left him. There was calm in her eyes, but also an intensity that made his chest tighten. "You don't understand yet," she said softly, her voice echoing through the hall in a way that vibrated in his very bones. "Your presence here is not by chance. You have been chosen." "Chosen?" stammered. "I'm just me. I don't even belong here." Lyra smiled faintly, and it was not the smile of a princess being polite. It was the smile of someone who had waited a long time for something impossible. You belong more than you know. The belief that the union must be witnessed by a being from another world, one who has not been shaped by our customs or our ways, someone human. His head spun. He had read about humans' place in galactic history, how they were considered unpredictable, reckless, and fragile compared to older species, but never anything about being part of a royal ceremony. Why him? Why now? The ceremony's music changed, a low, vibrating hum that seemed to resonate with his heartbeat. Lyra guided him through a series of movements, gestures that felt strange and unnatural, yet somehow familiar. Stumbled once or twice, feeling every eye in the hall on him. The whispers of the grew louder, but he did not hear them as ridicule. Instead, there was hope there. Anticipation. Faith. You are doing more than performing gestures, Lyra whispered. You are linking our world with yours, your heart, your choice, your courage. It binds us. Wanted to ask questions, to understand how a single human could carry such weight. But he found no words. He felt small, yes, but also strange and powerful. Strange because he was participating in something utterly alien, yet powerful because the universe seemed to be acknowledging his presence. By the time the ritual reached its climax, his hands were trembling. Lyra's grip was steady, grounding him. He realized then that they were not judging him for being human, they were trusting him, believing in him. And that belief ignited something inside him, a fire he didn't know he had. As the final part of the ceremony approached, Lyra stopped, turning to him fully. There is one final choice, she said. One act that will seal this union forever. It is yours to make. Stomach twisted. He could feel every eye in the hall, every pulse of energy in the palace. It was terrifying and beautiful all at once. He took a deep breath, forcing his fear into the background. He had come this far, he could not falter now. Then, without fully understanding why, he nodded. I will do it, he said. His voice was small but steady. Lyra's eyes softened and she smiled, a smile that lit the room more brightly than any crystal chandelier. She placed her hand over his. Then you are ready, she said. The ritual completed, they cheered, their voices like waves of light and sound washing over. He felt dizzy, exhilarated, and strangely proud. He was just a human, yes, but here he was, performing a role no one else could. Somehow his heart, his courage, and his willingness had become part of something far bigger than himself. As the celebrations continued around him, noticed something unexpected. He did not feel out of place anymore. He felt seen. Not as a human in a strange world, but as a person, someone whose choices, his bravery, and his heart mattered. Still, questions burned in him. Why him? Why was this union tied to him? And what would happen after the ceremony? He dared not ask yet. Tonight, he was part of something extraordinary, something that would change his life forever. And as he looked at Lyra, standing with grace and strength, he realized something that made his chest tighten. She was not just the princess. She was a being who believed in him more than anyone had ever believed before, more than he had believed in himself. Had no idea what the future held, but at that moment he felt ready. For the first time in his life, he felt that being human was enough. That courage, heart, and choice mattered, that he could be more than small, ordinary, and invisible. And deep inside knew that the story of this night, the alien wedding, the trust of a princess, the weight of destiny, was only just beginning. After the ceremony, the palace erupted with music, lights, and celebration. Wandered through the halls, still gripping Princess Lyra's hand, trying to take in everything. They had ways of celebrating that he could barely comprehend. Floating lanterns that sang, tables that reshaped themselves with food from countless worlds, and dancers who moved as if they were part of the air itself. Every corner of the palace pulsed with life. But amidst the wonder felt a growing unease. He was a human, surrounded by beings far older and wiser than him. Even though the ceremony had gone well, he could feel eyes on him, not all of them friendly. Some whispered when they thought he couldn't hear. Words like intruder, unworthy, and danger floated through the crowd. Realized that being part of the ceremony did not mean acceptance. Lyra seemed to notice his discomfort. She stopped in a quiet hall and turned to him, her eyes gentle but firm. I know this is hard, she said. Our people are cautious. They do not understand humans as I do, but they will come to accept you. You must give them time and patience. nodded though he wasn't sure he had either. The weight of expectation pressed on his shoulders. He had not just participated in a ceremony, he had been the linchpin of it. And now, with every step he took through the palace, he felt the quiet scrutiny of thousands of alien eyes. That night he slept in a guest chamber, a room that shimmered with soft light and seemed almost alive. Lay awake, thinking about everything that had happened. He had come as a guest, expecting to watch an alien wedding. Instead, he had become part of it, a human unexpectedly thrust into the heart of another world. He wondered if he could really belong here. The next morning, Lyra visited him, her presence both comforting and intimidating. She spoke of the duties ahead, of learning the ways, and of meeting the council of elders who oversaw royal matters. Listened, feeling both honored and terrified. He was learning fast that being human on this planet was not about strength or intelligence. It was about heart, about understanding, and about courage in the face of the unknown. As the days passed, tried to adapt. He learned the rituals, the language nuances, even the subtle gestures that conveyed respect or friendship. Some accepted him quickly, curious about the human who had dared to participate in something so sacred. Others watched with suspicion, their eyes narrow, their whispers sharp. Often felt the sting of judgment, but he reminded himself that he had survived the impossible already. He could survive this too. Yet not all challenges came from found himself increasingly drawn to Lyra. Her presence was magnetic, her laughter light and warm, and the way she spoke to him, always patient, always encouraging, made him feel alive in a way Earth never had. He began to understand why they had chosen him, not because he was perfect, but because he cared, because he dared, because his heart had the capacity to be more than anyone expected. One evening, as the twin moons rose above the palace, and Lyra walked along a balcony overlooking the crystal sea, admitted quietly, "I don't know if I can do this, live here, be part of your world. I'm just a human." Lyra stopped and turned to him, her eyes reflecting the moons. "You are more than human tonight," she said softly. "You are courage, choice, and hope. That is why you are here, that is why I trust you, and that is why our people will come to trust you too." Her words settled into him, like seeds planted in soil. Felt a warmth in his chest, a strength that had nothing to do with skill or knowledge and everything to do with belief. Belief in himself and belief in the bond he was forming with Lyra. But even as he felt that growing strength, could not ignore the tension around him. Some still whispered, some still doubted, and he knew that the path ahead would not be easy. There would be trials, questions, perhaps even opposition. Being human in this world was not just a challenge, it was a test. And the ordinary engineer from Earth who had stumbled into the stars realized that he had already begun the hardest trial of all, proving that humanity, courageous, flawed, and unpredictable, was capable of greatness, even in a world that had never seen it before. The palace had never been quieter. Walked through the main hall, feeling eyes on him from every corner. Today, the Council of Elders would meet him formally, and he knew this was more than a courtesy. This was a test. A test to see if a human could truly belong among and if he was worthy of standing by Princess Lyra's side. He felt a knot of anxiety in his stomach. The elders were formidable, ancient beings whose wisdom was reflected in every line of their shimmering faces. Their eyes held the weight of centuries and could feel them studying him, searching for weakness. He had spent days learning customs, gestures, and phrases, but he knew that charm alone would not suffice. He had to prove something deeper. Lyra walked beside him, her hand brushing his lightly. "Trust yourself," she whispered. "They do not expect perfection, they expect courage, honesty, and heart. You have all of these, remember that." Nodded, though his hands were still shaking. When they entered the chamber, the elders' voices hummed, a low vibration that seemed to measure the very energy of the room. Stepped forward, bowing respectfully as he had been taught. "Human," the eldest said, voice deep and resonant. "You have entered our sacred ceremony. You have witnessed our traditions. Yet to be part of this world, you must face the rite of courage. Only then will you be accepted by the people." His heart skipped. A rite? He had expected challenges, perhaps scrutiny, but not a test of courage. He swallowed hard and nodded. I will do it," he said. The elders guided him to a chamber that glowed with an ethereal light. In the center, a platform floated above a pool of shimmering liquid, its surface reflecting galaxies as if the cosmos itself had settled there. "Step forward, human," the eldest instructed. You will face your fears, your doubts, and your limitations. Only by overcoming them can you prove your worth. His legs trembled, but he stepped onto the platform. Immediately, the liquid below swirled and visions filled the chamber. He saw Earth, his small apartment, his ordinary life. Then he saw failure, his mistakes, the times he had been weak, the moments when he had doubted himself. Shadows of judgment, loneliness, and fear surrounded him. He wanted to run. He wanted to wake up and leave this alien world behind. But then he felt Lyra's hand, not on his hand, but in his mind. A connection, a warmth that pushed back the shadows. You are not alone, it seemed to say. You are more than you think. Taking a deep breath, faced the visions. He walked toward them, not shrinking, not hiding. He faced every fear, the fear of failure, of not belonging, of disappointing Lyra, and Each step made the shadows fade, replaced by a growing light within him. Courage surged, not born of strength, but of heart. Hours, or perhaps minutes, passed, could no longer tell. But when the visions dissipated, he stood on the platform, trembling but unbroken. The elder's hum rose into a vibration of approval, resonating in his chest. You have faced yourself, human, the eldest said. You have shown courage where others might falter. You have heart, and that heart is why you are accepted. Relief washed over, but it was quickly joined by pride. He had done it. Not because he was superhuman, but because he was human, flawed, uncertain, yet brave enough to face what others could not. When he returned to the celebration hall, they applauded, not merely for the ceremony, but for the courage he had shown. Whispers of admiration replaced those of doubt. Felt a warmth in his chest he had never known. He belonged. Lyra came to him, eyes shining. You did it, she said. You've shown them and yourself that humanity is more than small, more than fragile. You are extraordinary, and now, so are we together. Smiled, though his chest still ached from the intensity of the rite. He realized something profound. It wasn't rituals or traditions or even alien powers that defined greatness. It was the willingness to act, to choose, and to stand by heart when fear threatened to overwhelm. And as the twin moons rose again over the palace, knew that he had passed more than a test. He had stepped into a new life, one that would challenge him, change him, and ultimately prove that even a human could shine among the stars. The celebrations had quieted but felt no peace. Though he had passed the rite of courage, whispers still lingered in the palace corridors. Some watched him with suspicion, their eyes questioning, their voices soft but sharp when they spoke behind his back. Not everyone believed a human could belong here, could stand beside a princess, or could understand the responsibilities of royalty. Walked through a sunlit garden, trying to calm his mind. The alien flora glowed softly, petals shifting in colors he had never seen. He had learned to admire the beauty of this world, yet now every sparkling flower and floating stream reminded him of his difference. Was he truly enough for Lyra? Could a human ever live in this world and gain acceptance? He didn't have to wonder for long. Lyra appeared, her presence radiating warmth and quiet confidence. She sat beside him on a floating bench, her fingers brushing his in a gesture that seemed both intimate and reassuring. Do not listen to the doubts, she said softly. They see only what is different. They cannot see the heart, the courage, the choices that define you. Sighed, leaning back to gaze at the two moons hanging low in the sky. It's not easy, he admitted. I keep thinking maybe I should just leave. Maybe humans aren't meant for this world. Maybe I'll never truly belong. Lyra turned to him, her eyes shimmering with empathy. Belonging is not given. It is earned, yes, but more than that, it is chosen. And every time you act with courage, with honesty, with heart, you choose to belong. You have already done more than many have ever done in their lives. Her words comforted him, yet the shadow of doubt lingered. Had always been small in his own world, overlooked and underestimated. Here, in a world of beings who seemed flawless, his human flaws felt. He worried not only for himself, but for Lyra. He cared for her deeply, more than he had ever cared for anyone, and he feared that his presence, no matter how brave, might one day bring her disappointment. Days passed and worked tirelessly to prove himself. He learned diplomacy, helped with palace affairs, and even studied ancient texts about their history. Each day was a battle against both his insecurities and the quiet skepticism of others. But each day, too, he felt the bond with Lyra strengthen. One evening, as they walked along the edge of the crystal sea, a sudden disturbance shattered the calm. A group of approached, their voices urgent, their expressions tense. Could feel the weight of their judgment even before they spoke. "You are reckless," one of them said sharply. "You interfere where you do not belong. You endanger the royal family with your presence." His heart sank, but he did not step back. Lyra's hand found his, grounding him. "I trust him," she said firmly. "Do you?" The words echoed in the minds of the around them. Some stepped back, surprised by her defiance, while others continued to watch with doubt. He met Lyra's gaze, and in that moment he felt a surge of determination. He would not let fear or skepticism define him. He would stand by her side no matter what. "I am a human," said, voice steady, carrying over the waves of the sea. "But I am not weak. I may not understand everything, and I may make mistakes. But I will protect, I will learn, and I will stand by Princess Lyra because I choose to. Not because it is easy, not because it is expected, but because it is right." Silence followed. The around them seemed to sense the truth in his words, the strength that came not from power or perfection, but from heart and choice. Slowly, some nodded, others relaxed, and a few even smiled faintly. Lyra's smile lit the night, and felt a warmth spread through him that he had never known before. The shadows of doubt had not vanished completely, but they had weakened. Together they had faced them together and realized something profound. Belonging was not about being flawless. It was about courage, honesty, and love. As the moons reflected in the crystal sea, held Lyra's hand tightly. The world was still full of challenges, whispers, and suspicion, but for the first time he truly believed he could face them all, not alone, but together with her. And in that moment, knew he was ready, not just to belong in the world, but to carve a place for humans among the stars. The palace was alive with whispers and movement, but felt a stillness around him, a quiet moment of anticipation that pressed heavily on his chest. Something was coming. He could feel it in the energy of the halls, in the tension in the air. They were preparing for a rare alignment of the twin moons, a ceremony that occurred once every century, where ancient vows were renewed and destinies revealed. Lyra came to him, her eyes bright and serious. She said softly, "The alignment is tonight. There is a choice that must be made, not just for me, but for you, for both our worlds." His heart thudded. He had faced fear, judgment, and doubt before, but this felt different. It felt like the universe itself was asking him a question he could not ignore. He nodded, though uncertainty swirled in his chest. That evening they stood together in the grand hall. The twin moons shone above, casting silver and gold reflections across the crystal floors. They gathered in a circle around them, their faces solemn, their eyes fixed on. Even after all he had endured, he felt small again, a human standing in the midst of a civilization older than he could imagine. "You have proven courage," the eldest elder said, voice vibrating through the hall. "But courage alone does not bind worlds. Heart does, choice does. Human, the princess offers you her hand in union, not by tradition, but by trust. The question is yours to answer." Swallowed hard, the weight of the words pressed on him. He was no longer just a participant in a ceremony. He was being asked to choose, a choice that would bind him not only to Lyra, but to a world far beyond his own, to responsibilities he could barely comprehend. Lyra stepped closer, her hand reaching for his. She whispered, "I do not ask for perfection. I ask for your heart, your choice, your willingness to stand with me in every way. Together we can face whatever comes. Together we can create something new." His mind raced. Could he leave Earth behind? Could he truly commit to a life among beings so different, so ancient, so powerful? Fear whispered that he was not enough, that he would fail, that he would disappoint. But then he looked at Lyra, at her eyes shining like twin stars, at her trust and warmth, and the fear began to fade. I choose," he said, his voice trembling but firm. "I choose you. I choose to stand with you, not because it is easy, not because I know everything, but because it is right. Because I want to, because I love you." A hush fell over the hall. The watched, some still wary, some in quiet awe. Then slowly the eldest elder nodded, a wave of approval pulsing through the room. Energy swirled around and Lyra, a gentle, radiant force that seemed to embrace them, lifting their hearts and binding their fates. The alignment of the twin moons bathed the palace in light, silver and gold blending like fire and water. Felt a warmth flood him, a feeling of being seen, of being accepted, of being home. For the first time, he understood what they meant when they spoke of courage, heart, and choice. It was not about power or perfection. It was about love, trust, and the willingness to commit, even when the future was uncertain. Lyra smiled, her hand in his, her presence steady and unwavering. "You are extraordinary," she said. "Not because of what you have done, but because of who you are, and now, together, we will face whatever comes." Looked around the hall at the who had doubted him, who had watched him struggle and falter. Some nodded in respect, some whispered in admiration. And he realized something profound. Humanity, ordinary, unpredictable, flawed humans, had a place in the stars. A place where courage, heart, and choice mattered more than strength or age or perfection. That night did not just make a choice for himself. He made a choice for Earth, for Lyra, for the possibility that even a human could leave a mark on an alien world, that humans could shine among the stars. And as he held Lyra close beneath the twin moons, feeling the energy of the palace pulse around them, knew that this was only the beginning. Together they would face the unknown, but for the first time in his life he felt truly ready, because he was no longer just a guest. He was part of something extraordinary. He was home. The palace shimmered under the twin moons, the crystal floors reflecting their light like a river of stars. Stood beside Princess Lyra, hand in hand, their fingers entwined as though the universe itself had woven them together. This was no longer a ceremony, no longer a test. This was their life, their choice, their destiny. They had gathered again, but this time the whispers were gone. Eyes that had once doubted now watched with respect, curiosity, and quiet admiration. Felt a warmth in his chest as he realized that the people who had once questioned his presence now accepted him, not because he was perfect, but because he had shown heart, courage, and a willingness to embrace the unknown. Lyra turned to him, her eyes reflecting both the moons and a depth of trust he had never known before. She said softly, "You have done more than anyone could have asked. Not because you followed rules, not because you are from another world, but because you chose to stand with us, to face every fear, and to follow your heart. That is what makes you extraordinary." Swallowed, feeling a rush of emotion he could barely contain. I never imagined any of this," he admitted. "I came here as a guest, a human with no place in this world, and now I feel like I belong. With you, with them, I feel like I finally have a purpose." Lyra smiled, and it was a smile that lit the entire hall. "You always had it within you. All you needed was the chance to see it for yourself." A sudden hum filled the air, rising in intensity. The twin moons aligned perfectly above the palace, casting a golden and silver glow that bathed everyone in radiant light. Could feel the energy, a living force that wrapped around him and Lyra, binding them together in a connection deeper than words. He looked at her and knew this was more than ceremony, more than ritual. This was love, trust, and unity made real. The eldest elder stepped forward, voice resonant and powerful. "Human, Princess Lyra, your union is recognized by our people, not because of tradition alone, but because of heart. You have shown courage, loyalty, and the strength to choose. You have proven that the essence of humanity, its resilience, its bravery, its capacity for love, can shine among the stars. Today, you are not only accepted, you are celebrated." Felt a swell of pride and humility at the same time. He thought of Earth, of his quiet apartment, of the life he had known. And he realized that the very qualities that had made him ordinary there, his curiosity, his empathy, his courage in the face of fear, had made him extraordinary here. Humans, he understood now, were capable of more than anyone had ever believed. Lyra squeezed his hand, her touch grounding him amidst the overwhelming energy. "Are you ready?" she asked, eyes shining with warmth. Nodded, a confident smile breaking across his face. "I am ready, ready to face whatever comes with you." The cheered, a sound that was more than noise. It was a vibration of acceptance, celebration, and hope. Felt it in every fiber of his being, a confirmation that he had found his place, not by accident, but by choice. As the celebration continued, and Lyra walked through the palace gardens, the alien flowers glowed softly in the night, reflecting the energy of the moons, and felt a serenity he had never known. He realized that life was not about where you started, but the courage to step into the unknown, to face fear, and to choose heart over hesitation. Humans are small, Lyra whispered, resting her head lightly against his shoulder. But your hearts, they are boundless. Smiled, feeling tears prick at his eyes. And I've learned that even small hearts can change worlds, he replied. The palace faded around them, the music, the crowds, the energy, all of it blending into a perfect moment of understanding. He was no longer just a guest at an alien wedding. He was a partner, a human who had dared to step beyond his world and prove that courage, choice, and love could bridge galaxies. And in that moment, knew that their story, the story of a human among the stars, of love that worlds, of courage that changed perception, was only beginning. Together, they would face the future, not as alien and human, not as princess and guest, but as equals bound by heart, by choice, and by the extraordinary capacity of humanity to shine even where the stars themselves had never dared. Under the twin moons, and Lyra stood hand in hand, the universe around them vast and unknown, yet full of promise, and knew with every beat of his human heart that he was finally home.